Services program, as well as some students. We will leave time at the end to address questions that are submitted in the Q&A. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, just simply type them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we will get to them at the end. This session will also be recorded, captioned, and uploaded for viewing on the Orientation Services website soon. So I'm Cassie Walliser from TRIO Student Support Services. I also have a co-presenter with me who will introduce himself in a minute. You will hear from both of us throughout the presentation. Now, you have heard us mention that we work for TRIO Student Support Services, or TRIO SSS as we call it. It's a program on campus that supports students who are first generation, from low income backgrounds, and or have a documented disability. We are one of many resources for first generation college students on campus, and we'll tell you a little bit more about our program towards the end of the presentation. Cody, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. So my name is Cody Pritchard, and I have the pleasure of serving as the project director for TRIO Student Support Services. So welcome, and you will see me a bit more here in just a little bit.
Thanks, Cody. As I mentioned, there are also some fantastic first-generation college students on the line with us today, and they'll be chatting with you a little bit later. Today we have Luz, Rolando, and Paulina. And I'm going to let each of them tell us about themselves too. Luz, do you want to get us started?
Yes, good evening. I am Luz Martinez. I will be a senior and I am majoring in religious studies. I'm on the pre-med track and I'm also minoring in Spanish.
Thanks, Luz.
Hello, my name is Rolando Garcia. I'm an incoming second-year student. I'm majoring in biomedical engineering with a minor in French.
Paulina?
Hi, I'm Paulina. I'm a rising junior and I'm majoring in social justice with a minor in Latinx studies.
Thanks, everybody. So in college, students need to adjust both academically and socially in order to succeed on campus and ultimately graduate. We can call this academic and social integration. Academic integration includes things like adapting to the academic culture of the institution, expectations of classes, and the rigor of college coursework. Examples of social integration include feeling like they belong on campus, making friends, and getting involved. Today we will cover topics about both the academic and social components to your student success and how you can best support them. First, we will discuss some information about college academics. So college classes are structured a bit differently from high school classes. There are several ways in which this is true: the syllabus, faculty relationships, class sizes, the use of technology, course materials, and grading. Class sizes vary tremendously at the University of Iowa. Your student will likely have classes that range from several hundred students to 20 or less. Students tend to see the larger classes in their first couple of years when they are taking courses that have higher enrollment and are needed for more advanced coursework. However, there are some courses for first-year students that are specifically designed to be smaller. And even for large courses, your student will likely have a weekly discussion section as part of that course that is designed to be small and led by what's called a teaching assistant, or TA, who is a graduate level student in that field of study. If your student has questions about class sizes, they can ask their academic advisor. Most of us have probably heard a variety of things about textbooks in college and have images of what they cost or what they look like in their heads, whether it's from the media or our own experiences. Yes, your student is going to need to buy some books, but you may also notice that there's some things besides books on their bookstore receipts. Students may also need to buy access codes for online learning tools. They may need materials for labs or even art supplies if they're taking an art course. Grading also looks a lot different in college. There are fewer grading opportunities per course than in high school. Some of your students' classes may consist of 2 to 3 exams, a couple homework assignments, and a few participation points. Exams tend to be anywhere from 20 to 40% of a student's final course grade. This is why students get so stressed about exams. Grades in college are also a little bit different, and they tend to be either just raw scores that the student received, much like in high school. You know, if you earn a 95, you get a 95%, right? Or sometimes they're based on a curve. And with curved grading, the professor takes all of the scores and determines that a certain amount of students will earn A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. This means that no matter what the high score is on an exam, even if it's a 70%, then the student with the highest scores earn A's. This can be a real benefit to students, but when they get their initial exam grade back, it's usually just the raw score without the curve added to it, and that can be really stressful for students. So if you hear your student talking about the curve, that is what they mean. So here you will find an example of part of a syllabus. So a syllabus is the guiding document for the course, and your student may have had a couple of these or maybe all of them in high school as well, but in college they look a little bit different. Every course has to have one. Your students will go over these in each of their classes on the first day of class. The college syllabus tends to be like 8 to 10 pages long though, and it's very comprehensive. It includes the instructor's contact information, how to meet with their professors, including during their office hours. We'll talk more about that later. The grading scale for the course, all the academic policies, information about assignments and deadlines, and then also a schedule of what topics will be covered in each class period. So if your student has questions about due dates, assignment details, or how their grade is determined, those sorts of things about a course, the first place that they should look would be that syllabus. And students can find electronic copies of their syllabus and other course documents on ICON. So ICON is the university's official learning management system. And the best way to describe it is like if you're familiar with PowerSchool or any other learning management type of softwares in high school, it's like that, but it's the college version, and it's just for students. On ICON, professors have the ability to post recordings of their lectures, class reading materials, they can enter grades, and this is also how your student will submit most of their assignments through electronic submission on ICON. ICON also has a grade book, and so if your student isn't sure how to find their current course grade, ask if they've checked ICON. And for online courses, or any course that might be a hybrid, a lot of times there will be discussions that are done through an online discussion board. And this can be a great way for students to learn and engage with their peers in the online environment as well. So if your student has already registered for classes and you've seen their schedule, something might seem peculiar to you. Students only spend around 15 to 18 hours in the classroom each week. When looking at your student's weekly schedule, you may wonder what exactly they are supposed to be doing with the rest of their time. Well, I'm sure our student panelists will be the first to tell you that the answer to that question is not always napping or watching Netflix. The vast majority of learning will occur outside of the classroom, and much of the responsibility is placed on your student to learn the material on their own. In high school, students are accustomed to teachers being responsible to teach. And that's definitely still true in college, but there's even more responsibility placed on the student to learn the material and understand it on their own. However, they are never entirely on their own. There are many academic resources for students to use, and it's an expectation that students actually use academic support and tutoring centers that are on campus. It's what good students do. Good students also go visit their professor when they have questions or want to learn more about the material. Each professor has something called office hours, which is time set aside each week for students to come and ask them questions. And they can find these hours located on their syllabus. So we've shared about how college classes are different in structure and expectations. Now let's talk about some more things your student can do to be successful in their courses. So after looking at years worth of data, we know that students who do the following tend to do better in their classes than their peers who don't. We call these basic and advanced academic behaviors. The first one is go to class. I always tell my first year students that if they learn nothing else from me, it's that they absolutely have to go to class as the bare minimum. Students should also be doing the reading before going to class, taking good notes, participating in class, and start studying early. This means different things to different students, but typically students should start studying for exams 7 to 10 days beforehand. Students should also review their notes between classes. This will help them keep up with the material and have less to learn right before the exam. Additionally, students have a lot to keep track of on their own in college. They should use a planner or other means of keeping track of their deadlines and responsibilities. And finally, we know that good students get help. There are a wealth of academic support resources on campus, such as tutoring labs. I always tell students to pencil it into their planner, write into their schedule when they're going to tutoring, and just treat it like another class. So as you can imagine, success in the classroom requires your student to have structure. Students need to find a routine. And this can take a few weeks, and that's okay. This is actually something your student will have to learn to do every semester because their schedule will look a little different every semester. Students also need to learn to manage their time and hold themselves accountable. They should pencil in time for studying every day. They should also designate times and make a plan for when they will tend to personal things like exercise, meals, and time with friends. And it is very important that students find a place to study that is free from distractions. In many instances, this is not their residence hall room. Residence hall rooms have all sorts of distractions: roommates, TVs, laundry to be done, dishes to do, cereal to eat. You get the picture. Many students find that going somewhere to study on campus is a much better option, and there are endless spots to do this, such as the Iowa Memorial Union or the library. If your student will be living at home and not in the residence halls, talk with them about where at home is the best place for them to study that is free of distractions, and help them set up that place and make it their own. Okay, so that was a lot of information. Let's now hear from our students a little bit. So Paulina, what did you perceive to be the biggest differences between high school and college?
So for me, the biggest differences between high school and college was definitely the workload and my time management. In college, my workload is way different. Like I found that I needed to stay really on top of things, or else it's really easy to like fall behind on like my readings and my homework and studying. And I also found like with time management, like in high school, your schedule is already given for you and like it's already planned out. But in college, you're in charge of your own schedule. So like finding how to structure your schedule is also really important.
Thank you. Rolando, would you like to share a little as well?
Sure. To me, I think the biggest difference between high school and college is definitely how these classes are structured. Because in high school, we're all used to getting the same printout sheet that says, oh, here's your schedule for the entire week. There's nothing more you have to think about. But in college, it's completely different because your days will most likely not look the same each week. You have different classes in different spots each day, and you need to learn how to allocate time properly into how to prepare for those classes, and as well as other things you need to take care of.
Thank you. So Luz, what is some advice you would give to incoming first-year students?
Yeah, so my advice would be to look for your support system the moment you get to Iowa, and don't be scared to ask for help. Honestly, there's a lot of resources and help offered. Most of the help I have received was from the TRIO staff, and after 3 years of being at the University of Iowa, I finally asked for help, and it was life-changing. I was doing better in every way. So that's what I really recommend all students to do. Just ask for help.
Thank you. So, Paulina, what are some academic resources and strategies that you've used?
I think the main like resource that I've used, because like most of my classes aren't like big lectures, is going to office hours. I like to go to office hours just to talk to my professors about like materials or to discuss like readings that I didn't understand for that week. And I think going to office hours is important because you get to build a relationship with your professors or your TAs, and then that eventually like in the long run can like help you.
Great, thank you. Rolando, what academic resources and strategies have you used?
The biggest strategy I've used is, you know, just find a note-taking style that works for you, whether you're taking classes that are more liberal arts or more science and math oriented, like I am. But as far as studying strategies go in tutoring, the biggest one I think is the TRIO tutoring services, because they're not only free and exclusive to TRIO students. The tutors will actually work with you to tailor your lessons to your skill set, your schedule, your needs, and whatever it is that you are going to need help with. And it's honestly one of the most important and really beneficial study strategies out there. I would highly recommend it.
Excellent. Thank you all for sharing that very valuable perspective.
All right, so it gets to be my turn now. So hi, everybody. So while families tend to be the most concerned about things related to a student's basic needs like housing, food, and safety, students are often most concerned about meeting new friends. And so for students who have been with the same classmates throughout high school, moving to a new place and having to make all new friends can be really intimidating, and that's okay. There are thousands of other students going through the same thing, which makes finding friends much easier. There are a wealth of opportunities for your students to meet people early on. We know many of these activities may look different this year, but there will still be opportunities for students to engage in a safe manner. More information will be announced in the university throughout the summer. However, one of the most important things you can ask your student is if they are getting out of their residence hall room and attending activities. Some of these opportunities include the Iowa Edge program, On Iowa, student organizations, and residence hall activities. Students can and should also get to know people in their classes. They are going to be seeing them a few times a week for the 16 weeks after all. Additionally, if your student is living on campus, the residence halls are a fantastic way for students to meet people. Encourage them to get to know their floor mates and say hi to other folks on their floor and in their building. Meals are also an important social time for students, so be sure to also ask your student if they're eating dinner with folks. Student organizations are another great way, and are also they're more than just fun. They can be meaningful learning opportunities. Students can choose from a variety of organizations that are interest-based or related to their major and career path. Through student organizations, students don't just meet each other, they learn valuable leadership skills and networking that is beneficial to them beyond college. Your students' health and wellness is essential to their success. One area of wellness that you and your student may be considering or thinking about is homesickness. There's several things to think about and keep in mind as it relates to homesickness. First, homesickness is common, and your student is not alone in feeling this. So homesickness can be differentiated between two different types, acute and distressed. And I want to take a chance to kind of explain the differences between those and then how you can help your student. Acute homesickness may look something like your student generally missing home, certain aspects of home life, cooked meals, maybe pets, or even their siblings. But despite these feelings with acute homesickness, your students are still able to go about their day fairly regularly. They're still attending classes, they're still connecting with their peers, they're attending events, and so on. With distressed homesickness though, these feelings may become more extreme. Now feelings of sadness about missing certain aspects of home are impacting their daily routines. They are skipping class because they can't focus. They're coming home often during the weeks, but then also during the weekdays and possibly skipping class during that time to do so. They're saying things like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to, or I want to come home, or I don't think this is for me. The best thing that you can do in that time first is listen to your student, and then encourage them to seek help, and ask and make healthy choices. So make sure that they're getting good sleep, that they're establishing a routine in their days and in their weeks. And there are some incredible resources on our campus that are here to help your students. So encourage them to connect with student health, encourage them to connect with student wellness and the university counseling services. If you can't remember those specific offices or those specific services on campus, encourage them to connect with someone on campus. We care about your students, we care about their well-being and their success, and we absolutely are here to help. So want to hear from our students again a little bit more. So Luz, tell us what an average day looks like for you.
Yeah, so it depends on the semester. Usually my day starts in the morning, obviously. I wake up, I go to class. Most of my classes are in the morning. I try to make at least 30 minutes of my time to just go eat lunch. It's very important to eat. I make time also to walk. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes or 5 minutes to get from one place to another. So I make time for that. Afterwards, I usually have my meetings for my organizations in the afternoon. So I go to my meetings. I go with friends to the library. I study, obviously. Most of my afternoon is actually spent studying. And by night, I just go home. I do my night routine, and then I go to sleep to get ready for the next day.
Wonderful. Rolando, how about you? Rolando?
What an average day looks like for me is I generally tend to wake up at the same time each morning, around 10 a.m. I get to my first class. There's about 2 or 3 hours in between. I usually like to go to the main library or to the Iowa Memorial Union to get some studying out of the way, and it really helps to keep that focused mindset and just have these academic strategies at hand to enhance and sort of take up that time and not be tempted to uh, stray away from that or get preoccupied with something else. And throughout the day, I'd have other classes, lectures. Labs are also a big component of my coursework. So those are usually about 2 to 3 hours of the day, usually about once or twice a week. And by the time all that's done, I'm usually done about 5 in the afternoon. And when that time comes around, I usually reserve that time to eat, uh, have that time for myself, relax a bit, and then if there's any last minute things I need to take care of, then I usually get those taken care of at that time.
Paulina, how did you go about making friends in college?
I made friends in college through, like, the first thing was the Iowa Edge program, which started like a few days before classes started. And it was really nice because a lot of the students there, like, we shared a lot of similarities. But once classes started, I also made a good chunk of my friends through the organizations I'm in, which include Association for Latinos Moving Ahead and my sorority, Sigma Lambda Gamma.
Awesome. Luz, what are some of the things that you're involved in?
Yeah, so I am also involved in various organizations. I am a member of the Hawkeye Marching Band, which was very helpful for me because we actually start a week before classes start. So I already had friends coming into the first day of class. They're a very great group of people, and I really formed a family there. I'm also involved in my church, and it's the Newman Catholic Student Center. I go study there. I'm there with friends. I pray. And I'm also in a Latina sorority, Lambda Theta Nu, Sorority Incorporated, and I made a lot of great friends there.
So Rolando, what are some tips for maintaining wellness in college?
Some tips for maintaining wellness in college. The first thing you have to do is, be honest with yourself. You don't want to take on too many responsibilities that you aren't able to handle at one time. And the second best to that is maintaining a consistent schedule. You have to remember to eat, take care of yourself, exercise whenever you can. It doesn't have to be each and every day. Just just often enough that you feel healthy and you feel well rested in the time being.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you, each of you, and we get to hear from you again here in just a few minutes. So we also know that this is a lot of information, and we know college can seem like a whole new culture for first generation students as well as their families. We also know that first generation families want to be able to support their student however they can. One of the best ways to support your student is to simply take an interest in their college experience and ask them questions. Here are some specific things that you can do to help your student adjust to college life. First, get them a planner or encourage them to have that planner or their phone or a device or whatever it may be, but to be able to get them organized. Ask if they have a routine. And then create a communication plan with them. It may be difficult. They may be in class at times when you might want to be able to reach out or talk to them, but they're not able to because they're in class. So setting that communication plan around their schedule is going to be really important, and communicating that with them is really helpful. Refer them to the professor or academic support help. We've heard several of our students talk about that already. Ask what campus resources they are using in addition to the other academic support resources. Talk with them about what they are learning in their classes. This is a great way to take a vested interest in what they're learning in their career path and helps hear some of that passion of what they're studying. Check to make sure that they have all of their course materials prior to the first day of class. This is very important and it allows them to get off on a good foot. Offer support during midterm exams. This can be a very stressful time for many of our students. And this will be the first potentially real test of how they are doing in their classes. And lastly, if they are living at home, help them find that quiet place that Cassie mentioned for that workspace, and then respect their study time so that they can commit their full selves to their academics. As I mentioned before, there are so many people on campus that are here to help your student. Students should be able to name at least one or two people on campus who can help them if they need anything. Oftentimes, these include their peers, academic advisors, professors, supervisors if they have an on-campus job, academic coaches in the Center for Diversity and Enrichment, and the TRIO SSS student success coaches. So Rolando, we'll start with you again. Who is in your support system?
In my support system, it's mostly comprised of my floor mates. They're the ones I see the most often. They're the ones I got to know for the very first time once I got on campus, definitely through meetings and such. And they're just a bunch of people who you can really talk to and get to know better and just share your personal feelings about, and really not feel any sort of criticism or negative action towards sharing. And it's really helps in finding comfort here at the university.
Fantastic. Paulina, how about you?
My biggest support system would probably be my sorority sisters and my advisors within my sorority. I feel like my sorority sisters, they always are there to support me, but also my advisors for them. They always tell me what I need to hear and not what I want to hear, which I think is really important. Because as friends, sometimes they tell you what you want to hear, and sometimes you need to hear what you actually need to do.
Wonderful. Thank you. Luz, what are some of the things that you've asked for help with?
Yeah, so one of the main things has been mental health. It's very important to look out for your mental health. I know for me, it was very hard to be away from my family, even though they're not a long drive away from campus. And so I didn't really know how to go about that. I was really struggling with anxiety and depression, so I decided to reach out for help. I actually reached out to Cassie, one of our TRIO coaches. She was great. She listened to me, she guided me, and I was able to reach out to even more people that were also in my field of study, to a doctor, that she could guide me through the steps I had to take in order to hopefully apply to medical school. And it's just that fact of asking for help. it was very scary, but I still did it. And so that's something I really do encourage to do. From starting your first year, your first semester, just ask for help. Don't be scared. I know as first generation students, it's very hard to do that, but definitely do it.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I'll give you each a chance to answer this last question. Rolando, we'll start with you again. How can families support their students?
I think the best way for a family to support their student is to establish a sense of mutual respect. You know, as a parent, you are obviously going to want to check in on your student, and you know they're really going to appreciate that sort of connection that you have with them. But also, the parent needs to be aware of what is going on with the student. For example, there might be days where we're overwhelmed or just not really in the right mindset to have conversation, and they also need to respect that. You know, at the same time, we are at a university. We do want to sort of discover ourselves and become more independent in that process. And with independence, there's obviously going to be good decisions and bad decisions, and we just need to learn to work through those and sort of resolve these problems on our own, and in a way just maintain contact, but not so much so that it becomes a detriment to either the parent or the student.
Thank you. Paulina?
I think my advice is to listen to your student. I know my first semester, my mom got in the habit of like wanting to call me 2 to 3 times a day. And for me, like that was like way too much for me. And like I was trying to like be a student, like go to different events, like go study, try and like look for a job and like go to different meetings. And like I was trying really hard to like do all these things, and like having that conversation with my parents of me telling them that like my schedule is going to vary from like week to week and semester to semester, and that like I would make sure to call them whenever I had time, I think was really important for me, just because like that we avoided a lot of like arguments that way. So yeah, listen to the needs of your student and like what they may need. And yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And finally, Luz, what are some, or how can families help support their students?
Yes, I agree with Rolando and Paulina. Communication is very important. I know for me, I live pretty close to home. So my parents wanted me to come home almost every single weekend. And that was a little bit tough to talk to them and say, hey, I really can't, because for me, the weekends are really the times that I study and get most of my stuff done, because I'm pretty busy during the week with other things too. So just talking to them and trying to make them understand, because as first generation students, we're also learning about different things within the university. And sometimes it may be hard for us to explain things. So just having patience with us as well.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, so that's what you can do to support your student. But we also want to talk a little about what we can do as TRIO Student Support Services to help your student as well. So a little bit about TRIO. TRIO SSS is a federally funded program designed to support students who are first generation, who may come from low-income backgrounds and or students with disabilities. Our program serves 350 students and is housed within the Center for Diversity and Enrichment. We support our students by offering individual coaching around a wide range of topics. Our students also receive individual and small group tutoring, which you heard a little bit about already. Our students also take a 1 semester hour course together every semester, where we teach them about a variety of topics related to their success in college and in a timely manner throughout their entire experience. We also put an emphasis on building a strong community for our students. We want TRIO SSS to be one of those places, and that place where students feel like they belong on campus. I briefly mentioned just now that students take a course together every semester that cover a variety of topics. And you may be wondering what that looks like. The course is composed of 20 TRIO SSS students or less, taught by the TRIO SSS staff. We cover topics related to financial literacy and FAFSA filing, career development, academics, graduate and professional school preparation, diversity, equity, and inclusion topics, leadership skills, community building, and several others. Outside of the classroom, we also offer some fun cultural activities like day trips to different museums around the area, as well as performances to Hanchard Auditorium, which is the Performing Arts Center on campus. And everything that we offer as a program is no cost to the student or to you as a parent. We know what we do works. We've been on campus for 45 years, and we are really good at what we do. Our students have higher retention rates and graduation rates. They report a higher sense of belonging and peer connections compared to non-TRIO SSS students. And we know our students benefit from the support they receive from our student success coaches. So if TRIO SSS, as a parent or family member, if that's something that possibly you feel that your student may benefit from, or for the students who are with us, if you are interested in learning more about TRIO SSS, we encourage you to connect with us on our social media. You can also reach out to us as well via email or the phone number that's on the screen. And we also do have an application process for the program that is open right now for the 2020-2021 academic year. So that is an online application. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to complete and can be found at our website at diversity.uiowa.edu/trio-SSS. And so with that, we do have a few more minutes. And so I want to give folks the opportunity to drop any questions into that Q&A box. And Cassie and I will keep an eye on that. And we'll be able to respond to those either just here with us, or if there's a chance that we can have some of the students do that as well, then we can do that too. So we'll keep an eye on those questions for just 1 minute and see if anything comes in, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up after that.
That's a really good question. So the question that we got is, when is Parents Week and what are the activities? So the University of Iowa does have Family Weekend, and the date for that for 2020 is going to be September 25th to 27th. There isn't a lot of information posted about it at this time, but as it gets closer to the start of the academic year, they'll have more information. But typically at Family Weekend, there's a lot of really exciting things. Some of the colleges on campus do some open houses, so your student can introduce you to some people like their academic advisor, or show you some of the things that they're learning in the classrooms. Sometimes there are other large activities on campus. Sometimes they do some fun things for little siblings. And of course, it's always the weekend of a home football game too, so there's that. So let me ask you all this, since there don't seem to be a lot of questions. You have the opportunity to hear from 3 live students who are first generation, ranging from just finishing their first year to starting their senior year. Is there anything in particular that you would want to hear from a current student about their experience? They can certainly answer those more general questions as well. Okay, students, this question is for you. So what is the best thing a parent can do for a freshman? And also, what is the worst thing a parent can do? Thank you, Karen. That's a great question. Rolando, why don't you get us started? First, share with us maybe the best thing, and then the worst thing.
I think the best thing a parent can do for their freshmen is definitely send words of encouragement their way, because it's definitely a very, very different transition. And there's so many different elements that we have to deal with, and just hearing those words from our parents is really, it's lightheartening. And I think the worst thing a parent can do is probably call it the wrong time. Like if you're unaware of your student schedule, you might be calling in the middle of a class, study session, or worse yet, a final exam.
Yolanda, that's very kind of you. That is a very nice worst thing that a parent can do. Paulina, would you like to share as well? What's the best thing a parent can do and the worst thing a parent can do for a freshman?
I remember during my orientation, my parents, they like wrote me a little letter and then they like sent it to me like during my first week of classes. And I think like reading that whenever I was having like really tough moments really helped me like push through those moments. And it just like reminded me that like I'm here for a reason, and like I'm not doing it just for myself, like I'm doing it for my family too. And I think the worst thing a parent could do, I guess from experience, my mom would always ask me when I would be coming home, and I feel like that's kind of sad because like I don't always know when I'm gonna go home because like events are always on the weekends and stuff. And then like Lou said, I do a lot of studying on the weekends. So yeah, like making a plan, I guess, for when to go home, I think is a good thing to do as well.
Okay. Luz, do you want to share?
Sure. So I think the best thing a parent can do for freshmen is set up a call schedule. So say you call your parents Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. And I mean, obviously there's an emergency, like have that communication with your student, but have that time just set so that your student knows, okay, this is the time when I can call my parents and I can just see how they're doing instead of like calling at random times, because sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. I know for a fact my mom once, I was at the library and I was studying and I was in a study room and I had to leave and talk to her, and I felt really bad to just like tell her, hey, I can't right now. So it hurt a little bit to do that to my mom, but just setting up that call schedule. And I guess that's kind of like the worst thing a parent can do, kind of just call at times where maybe they don't know like you are doing something. So just communicate with your student.
Well, any last call for questions? I'll give you another like 15 seconds. I'm a teacher, so I don't mind waiting in silence. Well, I just want to say too, thank you for attending. I'm going to let Cody wrap up in a minute, but in my experience working with college students, really the best thing you can do as parents is what you've been doing all along. And that's just supporting your student and telling you love them and you believe in them. And there's really no worse thing that you can do, right? I think the best thing to do is just understand that your student's going to be growing and changing, and just always reinforce that message that you love them and you believe in them.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us again. And I think one last piece that I do want to leave everyone with is just to encourage your students to ask for help, make those connections with folks on campus. I had mentioned so many different resources, from student counseling to advisors to faculty members to supervisors for on-campus jobs, but just know that there are people on campus, and we have incredible folks that work at the University of Iowa that are here to help. And if they can't remember anyone, remember that Cassie and I are always here, and we want to be able to help you as well. So never hesitate to reach out. We're absolutely here for you all. And never forget that. And we're excited to welcome you to the Hawkeye family here very soon. And thank you so much for joining us.